Hi, I'm Alex Pault, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Today, we're going to take a close-up look at this really cool Pulp Fiction style World War I trench watch. The interesting thing about these World War I trench watches is World War I killed the pocket watch because men carried pocket watches and women wore wristlets, not wristwatches. They just called them wristlets because women didn't have pockets. But then World War I started, and you can't fight a war with a pocket watch. You can't reach into your pocket while you're flying a plane or driving a tank or firing a rifle. And World War I, especially being an artillery war, was very important to know what time it was, to know when the artillery barrage started and stopped and when it was time to attack. So all officers were expected to have a watch, and most NCOs did. And some of the more affluent privates did. And so this was a pocket watch that was transformed into a wristwatch by having lugs soldered onto it. And these lugs weren't done by an amateur. I mean, they were done by a watchmaker, but you can tell they were done after the fact. Or could have even been done at the end of the assembly line, making pocket watches and then converting them to wristwatches before they even left the facility. This one's got some interesting maker's marks on the inside that I'll show you. But you can tell that it was worn for quite a while because there are use marks where the strap dragged across the back, which meant it was worn long enough for the strap to transfer some of its color to the case back. But it is a beautiful piece, and let's take a close-up look at it. But before I do, please subscribe. Please subscribe. It really helps the channel, and at least leave a like. But we're growing. We're getting there, and as we expand this channel as a forum to talk about watches, you could participate. Just send me notes about what you'd like to talk about, or chime in on any of our live streams, which are every Sunday at 8 o'clock GMT, and talk about watches. So let's turn the camera around and take a look at this very cool historic watch. As I say, Pulp Fiction style, because it is very, very similar to the one that was used in Pulp Fiction, and also of the same general vintage. And the prop master for Pulp Fiction paid about what I paid for this one, about $50, and I paid another $35 to get it running again, and it actually runs quite well. I might even find a bund strap for it or something and wear it once in a while on a lark. So let's turn the camera around and take a look at this watch. It's such a pretty little piece, this World War I trench watch. Now, the reason I say it is like the Pulp Fiction watch, that is a similar version, is because the watch in Pulp Fiction actually had a logo on the face. So although the font is very similar and the hands are similar and the design is similar, it's not the same model. But there were quite a few watches of similar design by multiple companies, because then was also a time, back then, it was also a point where you could put together a watch by ordering parts from suppliers. So this was a popular face design from many companies. Like Vario made quite a few trench watches that looked just like this, and I don't believe the one in Pulp Fiction was a Vario either. The name is actually very smudged on it, and I looked at the Hodinkee article on the watch, and they don't mention the manufacturer. They just point out that it was found in a thrift shop for less than $50, which is actually what I paid for this. I paid 45 euros for this watch, and then I paid another 35 to put it back in order, and it keeps pretty good time. Wristwatch check. Wearing my IWC Saint-Exupéry GMT UTC watch. Really like this piece, and I set this a couple of hours ago, and it's still running quite well. Now, as far as the size goes, back then, watches weren't really a size thing. It was more of a, convenience and elegant and presentation thing. There was no stigma on a small watch. In fact, this was considered a large watch for the day. And what do we have here size-wise? We're looking at a very straightforward 33 millimeters by 9.3. And these lugs, you can see that the lugs are tacked on, but I mean, well, professionally tacked on after the fact, as it were, which is the way you can tell that this is really a trench watch, because you didn't need to do that after World War I, because there were many watches available as wristwatches at that point, and it's a 10 millimeter lug width. So you could probably find a modern strap to fit this and throw it on your wrist. Some larger metal straps, for example, choke down to a smaller lug width, so you could put them on a watch like this. Or this would also be a really good watch for a Bund strap. Now, one of the reasons you can tell that this is a pocket watch converted is it has a very obvious hinge and thumb latch. So you can open it, which is not the case with your average pocket watch. So let's put this back on the stand and do some looking at the watch up close. Now, I looked very closely at the movement with the loop and couldn't find any maker's marks. There is, I'm going to go ahead and let's just keep it steady for a second so you can just appreciate that movement. Then we'll take a look on the inside of the lid, because there is a maker's mark on the inside of the lid and a seal with the word Wall and stars. So I think that's the name of the company, Wall Watch. And there's a crown. So it could have very well been a commissioned military watch for the British government back in the old timey days. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but I'm just telling you what I saw or what I am seeing, and I will show you what I am seeing. You can just make out, there we go, you could just make out the seals there. So let's zoom in a little, see if we can catch that. But there you go. So there we go. So it says Wall over here, and then that's a crown. And then there's that serial number. So if anybody wants to, and then there are a couple of other stamps on here. So if any of you have any idea what these stamps mean, please leave them in the comments. But all in all, it's a very beautiful and interesting piece. And a chunk of history, because if you come across a watch like this, a pocket watch with soldered on lugs, it's 99% going to be a World War I trench watch, because they modified pocket watches during that time, because that was the period where the pocket watch died out as a mainstream watch, because you can't fight a war with a pocket watch, a topic that I've talked about in the past. So let's turn the camera around and close out this episode. That was the Wall Watch Company. It says Wall on the inside, but I couldn't find anything online about the company, but just a cool, beautiful little trench watch. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please subscribe. Have a great day.